I can't see too good. Jeff, sir, how goes the battle?
Oh, it is going, and it is a battle. I can tell you that much. I've been doing the media blitz all weekend, and man, I thought this story was on fire when I first started doing interviews, but my whole day today has been in front of a camera. So,
well, I mean, thank you very much for coming on. I mean, first of all, have we never met in person, right?
We met at the Convoy briefly.
Okay. I will forgive myself for not remembering the specifics of who I met during the Convoy. That was one hell of a... Jeff, tell everybody who you are. I do want to dive into your life because I think it's absolutely relevant to where you are now and fascinating, and people can learn and, what's the word I'm looking for? Take inspiration from it. But tell people who you are.
Well, I mean, first of all, I would say that I'm nobody. I mean, it doesn't really matter who I am. The truth stands or falls on its own, and the law stands or falls on its own. So don't shoot the messenger. I'll say that to, some of the people out there who would. But if you'd like to know a little bit more about me, I mean, I'm kind of a down home East Coast boy, and I grew up here in Cape Breton Island, the home of my heart, in Nova Scotia. I joined the military when I was 22 as an electronics specialist, and when I was 22 in 2001, I'll say, and I did a 20-year career. I did a tour in Afghanistan in 2009. I was posted to Florida, Tyndall Air Force Base, to work with NORAD for a 4-year stint from 2010 to 2014. I went to Iraq in 2019. I tried to stay active in the community my entire career. I started coaching boxing when I was 24. I moved into mixed martial arts when I was about 26. I ran the Mixed Martial Arts Club in Kandahar while I was there. I did some more teaching when I got down south there on base. I would volunteer to run some classes during the lunch break, and after hours I coached junior girls cheerleading and junior girls softball. And I did some more softball coaching when I got to Ottawa in 2014. I spent the last 3 years of my career helping homeless veterans off the streets of our nation's capital in Ottawa, before I was medically released in 2021, September, in fact. So I missed the vaccine mandate announcement for the Canadian Armed Forces by about 3 weeks. The day I took possession of my retirement home in Cape Breton was 1 November 2021. That was the same date that vaccine passports came into effect. I bought my house crawling distance from the local Legion. I was refused service there. When you met me, I would have been wearing a red hat at the time. It said, "Lest we forget." And I took a permanent marker and crossed out the "lest," because that's how I feel. I feel like we forget that these rights and freedoms that are clearly being taken for granted and being used for toilet paper by our elected officials and our senior bureaucrats, these are the legacy of the fallen, and lest we forget that we all have a sacred civic duty to safeguard that inheritance for generations to come. So I feel like my simple act of civil disobedience was a matter of civic duty. I've been standing on guard for thee my entire life, and I don't really know how to do anything else. That's what I was trying to do. I think we have an issue of principle here. It really comes down to principles over politics at this point, because I just find, like I said, the way that these rights and these freedoms have been trounced, given that so many people have given their lives for them, I find that to be an egregious affront to veteran dignity and to human dignity more broadly.
You were born and raised on Cape Breton Island?
Yes, sir.
I think I need to show some pictures for people to appreciate. I did a road trip there with my wife like 20 years ago. One of the most beautiful places on earth. What did your parents do, if I may ask?
My mother was a physiotherapist. My father had a few different jobs around town, kind of office work, that sort of thing.
The road across Cape Breton, it's glorious. It's a little island. It is in fact an island off of, we could see it right here.
Unlike Newfoundland, which is an archipelago.
Okay, interesting. We call Newfoundland the Rock because what's the difference between an island and an archipelago?
An archipelago is a series of islands. Like there's
Okay.
Fogo Island in Newfoundland, and when you get off the ferry, it says "Welcome to Newfoundland," whereas it is the island of Cape Breton.
It is a beautiful place. It's small. What was the population of the town that you were from?
It's about 35,000. I'm from Sydney.
Okay, okay, that's big enough. And now you went into the army in 2001. You said
Air Force.
Air Force, and you served from 2009 active duty to 2019, give or take.
2001 until 2021. I did a full 20-year career.
Louise. What is that? I mean, I don't know how you summarize a 20-year experience in service, if you can. I mean, what is that like? What did you see? What was what type of I say engagement? What did you see in the 20 years that you do this?
I guess I saw a lot. I mean, I didn't really think of it that way at the time, but looking back now and just kind of comparing notes with my civilian peers, it seems like I saw quite a bit. And you know, that is, I think, kind of the idea. I went into it as a young man, expecting an experience of character development. And you know, I read Orwell when I was in high school, and I was quite taken with it. And you know, F. Scott Fitzgerald was quite good too. And Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. Well, not Aldous Huxley, but Ernest Hemingway. I would definitely put in this bin. They're all World War I veterans. So it seems like some of the greatest insights into the human condition have been coming from those who serve our civilization of war. So I kind of wanted to better understand what it was that they were getting at, because it all seemed so strange to me at the time. It's, you know, I understood that there was kind of something there, but I couldn't quite understand it. So I feel like I really understand it now, and that is kind of one of the things that wasn't so bright about my experience with the military. I mean, it has had problems with corruption. You know, at the highest levels for as long as I was in uniform. I mean, I had the Somalia affair in '93. I joined in 2001, so it was there when I got there, and you know, I got to know it quite well. I filed 10 grievances in my 20-year military career. I don't know anybody else who did that. Because, you know, I was told when I went to basic training that if I see something, I should say something. We all have a responsibility within the institution, and we all have a duty to defy illegal orders. That's what I was taught. You know, and of course, the question that always comes up within the group is, well, how am I going to know if the order is illegal? And the answer is that you use your own judgment. And am I going to be protected when they come after me for defying that order? No, you're going to go in front of a judge, and a judge is going to rule on the legality of that order. And if you turn out to be wrong, then you're going to be charged under the National Defense Act. Now, why would we impose such a burden on our young people? Because that is what separates us from Nazis. So I'm just in keeping with the principles that I've tried to embody my entire life when it comes down to defying a lot of these illegal mandates. I see it as a civic duty at this stage. And, you know, I think that I hoped that with the video that I put up of me receiving the fine last Friday, that I was able to provide an example for civil disobedience that others can follow.
Without getting into the nature of those grievances, for those who may not know, a grievance is you see corruption and you report corruption.
Well, a grievance, like, you would have to be impacted by the corruption. So it's your grievance. You've been aggrieved by the chain of command, and you submit your complaint to the chain of command, and they will let you know that, you know, you're just being whiny baby.
What was the? I guess you can remember the one biggest, or the one that sticks out the most in terms of a grievance you filed. Sure.
So while I was posted to the United States, the higher headquarters, which is in Colorado, they when it came time for the personnel evaluation reports, these are annual evaluations that form the basis for promotion. The way it's supposed to be done is your supervisor writes your evaluation, and there will be some vetting on the part of the chain of command. And then it goes to a unit board where we kind of rack and stack them, and we just say this guy got the best score and that guy got the next best score, and we give them a number for the unit, like 1 to 10. And then it goes, you know, the highest ranking PERs will go to the formation board in Colorado Springs. What they were doing in Colorado Springs was the old way of doing things. Now, we call it the bun toss. Like all the supervisors kind of write the name of their favorite guy on a bun, and they all throw their bun at the wall, and whichever one bounces off and lands closest is the number one guy and gets the best score. It's not quite that extreme, but it's basically like the supervisor will stand up there and say, this is my favorite guy, and this is why I think you should vote for him as the favorite guy, and he should get the number one score. And then everybody votes. And then they have a scoring matrix where they say number one gets this score, number two gets that score, and then they dictate those scores to the supervisors. So I saw it happen a couple of times with my subordinates' evaluations. And when I saw it happen with mine, I mean, after I spent 3 years telling them that you're not allowed to do this. It's actually something that came out of the commission into Somalia. They revamped the evaluation and promotion system, gave them a turnkey solution, complete with a set of instructions, fully available to anybody using the program by clicking the help button. And the people in charge, they never read those instructions. They just kept doing what they always did, which was the favorite guy contest. And so when it impacted me, I had grounds to submit a grievance, and that has teeth because it'll go outside the unit and beyond the formation if I take it all the way. So when I submitted that, before I knew it, my medical file was under review and ended up medically repatriated to Canada, of all places, to get healthcare based on a 1.5-year-old injury for which I had already been cleared by the local doctors. Like, they were trying to run me out of the military. They were trying to release me trying to release me medically. And when I got to Ottawa, which is where I was posted, not only did I have to wait 5 weeks just to see a general practitioner, but when I saw him, he said, you're going to need a nerve conduction studies. So that's in order to be cleared. And that's going to take another 5 months. So it was so urgent to get me back to Canada on 8 weeks notice with my 2 kids in tow as a single father that, they only gave me 8 weeks to do it. And then when I got there, they said, you're going to have to wait 6 months before we can, and the thing is, at that time, you couldn't be promoted while you were on a medical category. So I lost a promotion. They put me on shift work with my 2 kids at home. And it was an absolute nightmare. So that's kind of the way that they roll. They will get you somehow. And eventually I was clear. Like, when I talked to my general practitioner, he told me about the nerve conduction studies. And I was like, well, I already did that. And he said, when did you do that? And I was like, over a year ago. And he says, well, it's not on your file. Oh, well, I will get you a copy. So I contacted my neurologist in Florida and got them to fax it up. And when I gave it to the doctors, they cleared me. And so then I got the promotion and a new position in off shift work. But that is the kind of greaseball tactics, like the lowest of the low, that you will see coming from the highest levels of the Canadian Armed Forces. That same corruption that I've been battling for the first 20 years of my adult life is what I see everywhere in Canada now. So, I think we need to have teeth, like I did with my grievance. I can talk to them until I'm blue in the face, and I can cite the policy chapter and verse, and it just doesn't matter. There's the same kind of double think that we see everywhere. I saw that in the military as well. I mean, I could show them in black and white, this is what it says right here, that you're not allowed to do this. And they'll say, no, that's not what that says. You're crazy. There's something wrong with you, right? So I see the same thing happening right now with our charter rights, especially when it comes to these woods bans. And I found the proclamation, the order, in my own judgment, to be illegal, and I'm adhering to my duty to defy it. So now, when I took this to court in 2023 with a judicial review on my charter rights alone, the judge said I could not stand on my rights alone, that there had to be money involved. And had I gotten a fine, then I would have had standing. So they dismissed it in 2023. When they brought it back in now, I was like, I know what I have to do to make sure this gets to a courtroom. I got to go out and get fined.
The 2023 was in respect of the COVID measures.
No, that was the first woods ban that Nova Scotia put in place.
Oh, geez, after the arson biggest forest fires in Nova Scotia's history in 2023.
There were no active fires on Cape Breton Island when they banned me from the woods in my my local area. Yeah, the woods.
Okay, sorry. I thought the first one where you hadn't actually gotten a monetary fine was COVID related, but it was the first ban, which many of us didn't fully appreciate or weren't aware already was done in 2023. Before we even get there, just a quick one. So you get out of the Army, you say medically discharged. Air Force. I'm sorry.
Right.
These are the citizens. How a lowly citizen doesn't fully understand the divisions within there. You get out. How do you reintegrate into? I say reintegrate or integrate into civilian society. What did you do? How did you get involved with the People's Party of Canada? And then we're getting to the tickets. I promise.
I didn't reintegrate very well. I can tell you that because I was barred from society, so integration it was a bit of a barrier to my reintegration. And when I was refused service of the Legion, like I said, I put on that red hat and crossed out the last we forget. And I just started defying the mandates. I mean, I would go shopping. I would just go about my daily business and refuse to put on a mask. I got arrested a couple of times. The first time I was charged with obstructing. I submitted a charter defense, I guess, because I'm used to doing military grievances, but really I should have held those cards closer to my chest because I submitted the charter defense. And then the day I showed up in court, I was the only one. So the police, the witnesses, the complainants, nobody showed up. And the judge said, well, none of the witnesses showed up, so case dismissed. And then, then my charter defense never gets heard on the merits. Mm-hmm. And the same thing happened the second time I got arrested. They gave me the $2,700 fine for not wearing my mask in Walmart. So I submitted another charter defense for the fine, and then 2 days before we were due to show up in court, the Crown withdrew the charges. And I have stood in open court in one of these other cases. For example, I think it was the last time I did the 2023 Woods ban, and I said to the judge, I told him that story, and I said, so it was all a shakedown. They all knew that this was never going to pass the Oaks test, okay? And they went ahead and they did it anyway, and then they skirted the law by keeping it out of court. So they're slippery buggers.
Well, and they got a ton of people to pay for them in fear of this. Some of them judges upheld the fines. I mean, in different provinces. So you have your run-ins with COVID measures. Ultimately, you didn't get convicted. You have no criminal record as a result of any of this.
I have a mischief and obstruct charge from the convoy, and I was also charged with breach of an undertaking because I signed an undertaking to get released after the convoy, and then Neil Shears called Rolling Thunder, which was a bike rally and a wreath laying ceremony to give dignity back to the monument and to the veterans who were beaten and drug off it. So I just said, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to that, and you guys can come out and arrest me again, which they did. And I think they're still holding $5,000 worth of bail over that one. I got charged with the breach on that one, and I pled guilty to it. I was like, yeah, I knew what I was doing. I even called my lawyer and told her to expect a call. So, I'm guilty. And ultimately, they bundled it all together and gave me one full sentence at the end of it, which was a year's probation and 50 hours community service, which we appealed, and the appeal was denied. So now it looks like we're heading for the Supreme Court.
It is. It's absolutely insanity. This was the Rolling Thunder was to return to the cenotaph, which was the war memorial in Ottawa, where they claimed that protesters were defecating on it, urinating on it, defacing it, when in reality, I went there and everybody saw it. The veterans were protecting it, shoveling snow. And then the Rolling Thunder was, what was it, a year later or 2 years? How much longer?
No, that was April. That was April of 2022. It was only a few months.
Okay.
You could have given me a couple more weeks, by the way, Neil. I got snowed off the road in New Brunswick because you have to go just as far north in New Brunswick as you do west. So me and the Atlantic crew, we got snowed off the road and got a hotel and rented a car because we were going to make it on our bikes.
So it's unbelievable. I've shown the video. I won't show it again now, but then we get to, let's say it's 2023 is going to loop into 2025. 2023 was the biggest forest fire in Nova Scotia history. As far as I understand and recollect, it was the result of arson. It was a dry season as well. I don't know what the forest management is like, but I think it's not particularly good from what I've seen. I actually read an article that said they can't really remove debris because it involves going too far into the forests. So therefore they don't remove any debris and you have the conditions you have. But 2023 was arson, period. The largest, I think the guy got convicted, but it was of a lesser charge.
Yeah.
So during 2023, who's the premier? Was it Tim Houston as well?
Yes.
Okay, Tim Houston, progressive conservative, issues a ban. What did you do with that ban in 2023?
I mean, what I did was I submitted the charter application. I submitted the judicial review on charter grounds, and I said that the bans violated the charter. But like I said, because there was no money involved, the judge dismissed it on standing. So that was the end of that. Like they tried, the Crown tried to argue mootness because by the time it got to court, the ban had been lifted. I argued that no, it is not moot because they're going to do it again. So clearly I was right and they were wrong. And I think I was probably right on the standing too. It's aberrant to me that I can't stand on my rights in a Canadian court.
Jeff, it's something we talk about all the time on my channel on Sunday nights with Barnes. Like they say, it's latches, ripeness, or standing. So you either waited too long, you're too early, or you don't have standing, and it's the way they get out of it. They did the same thing with the constitutional charges for the COVID measures. Federal court came around and said, moot now because they've rescinded them or suspended them. Insanity. So you try to challenge it in 2023, and they say you have no standing because you suffered no injury. This time around, they go for another ban because it worked so well in 2023. Nobody said boo about it to the point where I don't think many people knew about it. And this time you say, well, I've got to go get me a fine. You go to the police. It's not a police station. It's what was it? DWS?
DNR. Department of National Resources and Renewables.
Or do not resuscitate is typically the way I know it. So you go there, you let them know what you're going to do. I might have to pull up the video. You literally just crawl through the forest for 30 yards, come out, tell people what happened.
Well, I called ahead and I let the supervisor know what I was doing and that I intended to go into the woods, and it was for the purpose of receiving the fine. And he told me that his guys didn't come on shift until 4 p.m. And I said, okay, I'll come by at 4 p.m. And so I went down there, and as you can tell from the video, like I went in and I explained where I was coming from. I told them everything that I just told you, that I had challenged it in 2023, but they said that I had to get a fine in order to be heard in court. So I'm not trying to make any trouble for you guys. Okay. I'm trying to make trouble for Tim Houston. That's it. And unfortunately, the court has told me that I have to go through this process of getting fined in order for my case to be heard on the merits. So I will be going into the woods today. And, there was a little bit of pushback, which I think is very much in line with what they're expected to do initially. The guy even threatened to double my fine. And I was like, no, you're not going to do that. But he threatened to double my fine to $50,000. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good.
Well, I want to. What part of this do I want to highlight? My entire audience has seen it, as has yours, I presume. But it was just about your excursion into the woods. This was the extent. You let them know you go into the woods. I don't know how they knew it was off limits. Oh, they said out there is off limits, so you go into it. Yeah. Love the fact.
I don't know that there's a good spot to do.
Or iPhone.
It's Samsung. Do this, but I'm just going to make this as painless as I can for those guys.
Break some bushes.
Go in here.
You might get an even bigger fine for bushwhacking. Then you go in and they say, come and we'll write you the ticket. Okay. Is there any part that I should highlight for the purposes of this? I mean, that's basically the gist of it. Everybody's seen it on my channel. I'll leave it in the backdrop because we want to come back to it. Okay. Okay. It's a max of $25,000 for the fine, right? It's not.
No, it's $28,872.50.
Well, that's after. Hold on, no. What I'm saying is they could have arbitrarily decided to give you a $5,000 fine because it's $25,000 max, not a fixed $25,000, unless I'm mistaken.
I couldn't say for sure now that you mention it.
So either way, they give you the full $25,000 plus $3,000 and change, which is for the victim compensation fund that every speeding ticket contributes to, plus taxes.
Yeah.
So flesh this out now. I mean, okay, just tell us how you feel when they're actually they are solidifying the insanity. What's going through your mind?
I think I just tried to find the humor in the situation more so than anything. That was actually my first lesson in Afghanistan, was that humor is a coping strategy for humans. And you want to hear the things that fly out of soldiers' mouths in a war zone. It gets pretty dark. And I even knew a few guys that had some issues when they came back to Canada, and they're reflecting on their experience and wondering, who that monster was, speaking through their mouths. And I was like, you're not a monster. You're just a human. Like, you did what you had to do to get through it with your psyche intact. And, jokes don't do any harm. So it's a net benefit to you. It's a net good. And that's the way that I try to approach what I'm doing now. I mean, I do think that we're in a war. It's not a shooting war, but it's kind of like the new face of war. And so I always advise everybody that you should stay frosty, keep a level head in these situations. It's a line that I take from the movie Generation Kill. And it's very true. Like, it's not the hotheads that win wars, okay? It's the cool and collected types, the pros, and that's how I try to approach this, was like a professional. And in my experience, what I try to tell people, this is like, there's two things you got to remember when you're going to war. Number one, you can't take it personally. If you take it personally, you're not going to last. You're going to burn out, right? You're going to crash and burn. And number two, you're not going to save all the children. We are going to take casualties along the way. That's just part of it. So, whatever you got to do to keep your sanity intact, tell some jokes and try to have a little fun, no matter what. Like, we got to have a little bit of fun while we're at work. And so that's how I tried to approach the situation while they were writing the ticket for me. I think I even said, "Oh, victim surcharge, eh? Wow!" I'm kind of laughing at it, really. And then when I got outside, I was still kind of laughing. Like, look at this ridiculous fine of almost $30,000 for spending 90 seconds in the bush here.
You say you say not take it personally, and then flip side, you talk about questioning things, and what makes the West different than the Nazis is that you're not going to get the willing executioners to carry out Hitler's orders just because they're following orders. Mm-hmm. Admittedly, the orders are not the same, and so to that extent, the comparison fails. But I don't see the distinction anymore in terms of authorities in Canada defying these unlawful orders that they are carrying out. The police there not only carried them out, threatened to do it twice. It penalized you to the fullest extent of the law, and their excuse is, well, we're just doing our job. Now, they're not hauling people off in carts yet, and I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek, but they're just following orders, much like everyone else of other eras, Soviet, Nazi, whatever. How do you relate to these people who, on the one hand, don't have probably the same life experience that you have to have learned the lesson that you've had, now basically tyrannizing you and just following orders? How do you internalize that?
Well, it's like I said, I try not to take it personally, and as disappointing and gut wrenching as it is, to see everybody failing in their civic duty to stand on guard for thee. I try to remind myself that, say, the guys at DNR, for example, like, they're just regular guys, and they're doing the best that they can. I have a much different life experience than they do, and perhaps I'm blessed in some ways that they are not. That maybe my understanding is a little bit more advanced, so it shouldn't. I don't want to come into it, thinking that I'm going to penalize these people or take vengeance out on them. I think that they're lost and they need to be shown the way. So I try to approach it with a little bit of leadership and professionalism, and I'm happy with the results that I got from DNR.
Well, and I say you don't want to penalize them, and you live in. It's still pretty small. 35,000 is big, but small. I presume you're easily identifiable. Have you felt any reprisals outside of the scope of your overt acts of defiance? Do you get pulled over more often? Have you gotten audited yet? Like, have you felt any other reprisals?
I haven't left the house in 3 days. I've been doing media appearances basically since the minute I got home from doing my from getting my fine. But people have been reaching out to me over Messenger, and I mean, I can count maybe a handful of messages that were negative, like literally less than 5. But overwhelmingly, the support is in my favor. People have had enough. And you're messing with Cape Bretoners and their ATVs now, and just like fishing, hunting, hiking, Like, and their precious UN has a universal declaration on human rights, by the way, and the full participation in the cultural aspects of your community is, I think, Article 26. So if there's anything that's culturally Nova Scotian, it's going into the woods to hike and fish and hunt and ATV. Now, when it comes to ATVs, I'm open to an argument that there's an increased risk of fire there, of course, but when it comes to my sneakers, I am not. So that's where the really unreasonableness comes in.
Well, I say I'm going to bring up one message because it seems that the vocal haters are very loud and very proud on Twitter or X, and they might give you the impression. My impression is that there are far too many Canadians who are not just putting up with it, but supporting this tyranny. Yeah. You don't take it personally, and I would have laughed it off also, but POSs are POSs who need to be called out. And there was this doctor, son of a bitch, piece of shizer, who actually had the balls. I had to look it up just to make sure he's a doctor. I think he's born in Halifax, apparently. Who has the balls to write, "I apologize to every single firefighter in Canada who left their family and put their life on the line as our nation burns from coast to coast, that there are selfish people like this in our great nation. The rest of us respect your sacrifice." This is the arrogance and pomposity of maybe he served and maybe he didn't know you served. The pomposity. I
replied to him. Did you see my reply?
No, I'm going to go look it up now. What did you say? If you can paraphrase.
I think you're better off maybe reading it because
hold on.
Yeah,
hold on. I'll get it here. Evilly, let me see this. I don't take anything personally either, but there's a level of arrogance in these bootlickers. Let me see here. In response to, here we go. You know what? I think I might have, that crossed my feed and I didn't read okay, here we go. It's this one right here. "I apologize to every single veteran in Canada who left their family and put their life on the line for our nation and the rights and freedoms now trounced for which it once stood. That there are selfish people like this in our once great nation. For them, all that stuff about human rights, fundamental freedoms, rule of law, etc., are just fairy tales that they tell young people to get them into flag-draped coffins. The rest of us respect your sacrifice." Marty up north is in the house. I had him on what I have noticed is that the people who are the most vocal supporters of the tyranny are, I say big. I'm not saying like big city versus small city. Ottawa, Toronto, people who don't have access to the nature that's being denied of the Maritimes. B, government workers and therefore government bootlickers or propagandists for the CTV or CBC. Those are the ones who are the most vocal. Now you are in Nova Scotia, but I'm now in Florida looking up at Canada. My impression is that far too many Canadians support this. What is it like on the ground where you are?
Well, I'll say, first of all, that was my impression while I was down in Florida as well. Seeing my own country through the looking glass, I was like, we got a lot of work to do. During my time there. And I'm sorry, I think I may have trailed off a bit there, Viva. Could you repeat that question?
Oh, no, it's what is the sentiment in Canada? Like, are more people than I think, are as many people as I think actually supporting this, or are more people than I think opposing it, but just don't have the means to make it vocal?
It's pretty tough to take that temperature at this stage. Just anecdotally from where I'm sitting, I'm receiving a lot more support than I am hate. There seems to be an awful lot of interest in this. I did do an interview with CTV National earlier today, so that should be on later. I've spoken to other mainstream, like CBC has reached out, Global has reached out. I'm doing interviews with all of them. Not because I respect them, but we need to heal the divide at some point, and we got to break into that blue pill echo chamber as well. That's the only way our voices are going to be heard. So, I think I've tried to stand on principle. Now, I spoke to some radio host in Toronto first thing this morning, he really kind of piqued my ire. And when I started making it a matter of human dignity and veteran dignity in particular, and he was like, "Oh, I don't think all those people died, so you could go for a walk in the woods." And I was like, who the hell are you to tell me what I signed up to serve? But just that same smug arrogance that we see, so typically in the people who support these things. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but that was really the only negative interaction, and it wasn't even that negative that I had in dealing with any of the media, and I have engaged so far. I'm losing track, but with several mainstream outlets like Chronicle Herald in Halifax, CTV in National, Global in Halifax, and so they are reaching out. They are taking interest, and if I play my cards right, then we might see some progress on this front.
Well, I mean, have you seen? Not to be too cynical, but I'm not yet there, but I probably need to be. Have you seen the final product of what CTV in particular put out by way of the interview, or
no?
And let me ask you another question. Are you recording it on your end just in case it's a total bastardization of what you said?
No.
Okay, so
I
mean, there's only so much you can do to protect against the scoundrelness, but mainstream, or I say legacy media in Canada is paying attention, but we have yet to see how they ultimately put the report together. Are you just a rogue People's Party of Canada far right? Are you a member of Diagolon, Jeff?
Negative. Those guys hate my guts. Those guys troll me more than anybody.
May I ask why? As a ring-bearing member of, I'm not a ring-bearing member of Diagolon. Someone sent me this in the mail, but I'm friends with Jeremy, and I'm friends with. I mean, I don't think I have my enemies are in the government, not in the military, but I have nothing. I mean, set aside. But why would they have issues with you?
Well, because I don't subscribe to their narrative around the Jews, it really kind of came to a head with me and the PPC. Like I had kind of distanced myself from Diagolon quite a while prior to really ramping up my involvement with the PPC, but I saw a lot of the same anti-Jewish propaganda is what it is. Like I recognize it for what it is. It's like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion was cooked up by Russian secret police, for crying out loud. And I tried to do some education behind the scenes, but I just get attacked because they're woke and they form an outrage mob, and then go for the torches and pitchforks and come after me online. And so there was all this drama around that, and I've taken a position on the woke right, which by the way, there's no such thing as the woke right. It's just a bunch of snowflake millennials who self-identify.
Now you're gonna get Jeremy. What's his name? Lindsay. What's his first name? Oh, what's Lindsay?
Lindsay.
James. Now you're gonna get James Lindsay on your case, hating youth. There's a woke right. Everybody who's
coming around. I've shared my ideas with him, and I have seen there's probably about a 3-month lag, but he seems to be coming around. And I think that a lot of people are politically homeless. And so, we have a lot of lefties who were against the mandates, who are finding the PPC, but they're bringing a lot of their Marxist baggage with them. Mm-hmm. So that was really what I was calling out. And I did like a couple of tweet threads on it where I was really demonstrating like the Jew narrative is fundamentally just repackaged third wave feminism for wannabe base chats. It's the same kind of Marxist narrative where, they will identify people in positions of power who are disproportionately represented by one group, whether it's Jews or it's whether it's the global Zionist shape-shifting reptilian overlords or the patriarchy. They just replace, patriarchy with Zionist and women with the white man, and you have the same narrative. It's based on this oppression narrative where they point to disparities of outcomes between groups, for which we have well understood social phenomena that explain why we observe the disparity, but they will always attribute that disparity to some form of oppression that's kind of invisible and ethereal and not really clearly identified. And it's resentment based. I think that it appeals to the human proclivity for envy, which is the most deadly of all sins. And you see like a lot of the same kind of thinking that goes into it. Like they're totalitarian and collectivist. I did a 6-hour struggle session with them in a space. And that was, I came out of it going, yeah, I was absolutely right. Like you guys are trying to struggle me. And the ideas that they were putting forth, they were like, you need to be like this and you need to be like that. And I was like, no, I'm not a collectivist. I'm against all of that stuff. I'm a right winger. I'm an individualist, and I don't agree with, I'm not on board with this like groupthink and these demands for ideological homogeneity. Like this is just as dangerous as the stuff that we see all over the left. So yeah, I mean, I took a lot of heat for saying those kinds of things. It's been quiet on that front for a while. I kind of have more important things to do right now. But I'm sure, the animosity has not subsided.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I've taken heat for not railing against Jeremy McKenzie in particular, because everybody's like, how do you feel about this and that he says? And like, first of all, he can believe certain things that I disagree with and that I might think are fundamentally flawed. And my ultimate bottom line is I don't think, if you're trying to win them over, and I say them, if you're trying to convince someone that they're wrong, the way you don't do it is by telling them they can't say it. And so I take flack for entertaining the discussion, or at least, not telling people to shut up. You can't say these anti-Semitic things. And then I am also, say, maybe to a flaw, not sympathetic, but I understand where people come to erroneous conclusions based on statistical overrepresentation that you can't blame people for coming to. And then the question is, how do you get past that? And I found that, debanking is not the best way to do it. But set that aside. I don't want to get into the fight between you and Diagolon. And I made a joke that someone might have said.
It's not really a direct fight like that. And nobody's ever really asked me about Diagolon before. And I didn't say Diagolon in particular. I was just talking about the woke right. But a lot of the guys that seem to be giving me a hard time about that come from that camp. But also the PPC. The PPCers who are woke are absolutely ravenous. So I probably had a lot more trouble with them.
When did you run for the PPC? 2021?
No, 2025.
2025. How'd you do?
I think I got like 600 votes or something like that.
That's not. Let me say that's not bad. So now getting back to the ticket, because you got this $28,000 ticket. I hate to impute my own neuroses or my concerns. What does that feel like, having that? It's not even a sword of Damocles, having that literal. I won't say potentially bankrupting, but that could be cataclysmic for pretty much anybody. How does it feel having that dangle over your head? What's the next step in terms of actually getting to court to challenge that, and what's the time frame?
Well, worrying never did a lick of good for anybody, so I do my best not to engage in it. I'm not going to burn myself out imagining things that might be. Was it Seneca who said that I have suffered more in imagination than in reality? So I just try to keep that stuff under control, so I can stay frosty and keep a cool head about stuff. And the JCCF reached out right away and offered to provide my representation, so that was very reassuring. I feel much better having those guys in my corner. Everybody is telling me that I got to fundraise because they want to pay my fine for me, and I've been saying no, I'm not going to do that. We can cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, if you want to help me fight this fine, then donate to the JCCF, and it keeps everything nice and clean. And if I get found guilty and the fine sticks, I mean, then we can talk about whether or not people want to do any kind of a group funding for that or something. But I'll figure something out. I always do. What choice do I have?
So JCCF is formally they've been mandated. They're your counsel in this now?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Because I got John.
I have to sign the retainer. I should say that's the stage that it's at. It's in my inbox. I have to sign it and send it back.
Excellent. And I think I'm doing an interview with John Carpe this afternoon, which is going to be pre-recorded, and then I'm going to publish it afterwards. Okay, so you got that. You've got counsel. Now I had a question that I totally forgot in there. Darn it. Crowdfunding to pay off the tickets, if it gets there. For the time being, JCCF is going to represent you, and it's going to be a long time in the future. Damn it, I forgot the question, Jeff. It'll come back in a second. What are you doing in the interim?
This right now, I'm doing my media blitz, and I, like I said, I have the convoy case that could go to the Supreme Court. I also have another case that I'm bringing before the Nova Scotia Court of Appeals. I just submitted the latest trove of documents to them. I'm self-representing in that one because I submitted Nova Scotia human rights complaints every time I was refused service while not wearing a mask, and also for my arrests. The CEO of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission bundled all of my complaints into one letter and just said, go away. He even said in the letter, because I said, I made reference to a prohibition on discrimination on the basis of a political belief, affiliation, or activity. And I said, I'm engaged in a political activity. It's an act of protest. And in terms of my political position, like I'm a classical liberal. So, I don't believe that I think that humans are rational beings to be reasoned with, not livestock to be coerced, and these kinds of things. And he said in his letter that my political affiliation had to be in association with an official party of Canada under the Act. And I was like, well, I got you now, because it does not say that under the Act at all. It doesn't say anything about, whether or not you necessarily need to be part of a political party. But that was how they dismissed some, and I had some other grounds there. Like I opposed them on religious grounds, calling, this COVIDism a cult and things like this. So, They bundled them up and kind of threw them away. I submitted the judicial review, and then the judge. We're getting some really crappy decisions from the lower courts. I already understood that before I got started, and he dismissed it. But I think that he made several palpable and overriding errors. The first one being, he said that it was not a palpable and overriding error, that they basically rewrote the law in order to render their decision letter. They were like, no, he said it didn't really matter that you weren't part of a political party. Like they still could have dismissed it. And I was like, no, how? Like they actually explicitly state that that is a requirement in the law, and that is the basis on which they are dismissing my complaint. So anyway, that's all part of an appeals book now that I just submitted at the end of July, and my next deadline is for the factum at the end of August. I have some election paperwork that I have to do to wrap things up there as well. So I'm always incredibly busy with all of this stuff going on, and it just keeps coming at us. Now we have this woods ban and this massive fine that I have to deal with. Like it just kind of keeps coming at me. But I am elated to have the GCCF in my corner, and not having to self-represent, I think, is going to be a huge weight off.
Jeff, by the way, if I'm looking to my left, it's only because my dog has, for a small dog, I don't know how he just peed so much on the floor, and did the number 2. Oh my goodness! No, Jeff, I remember the question I was going to ask, and I don't know how I forgot it. But the question a lot of people ask is, how crazy does it have to get in Canada before you contemplate thinking of moving? Have you ever thought of getting out of there?
All the time. As in fact, the tyranny was kind of the only reason I stayed. Like when I was being released in 2021, I kind of had my eyes set on Florida. Like I wanted to go back down there, maybe go chase after my old girlfriend or something. And anyway, like just when I saw the way that things were going, especially in the lead up to the 2021 election, I was like, we're in a lot of trouble. So I decided to come back to the home of my heart, dig my boots into the ground that I love, and make my final stand. And maybe, hopefully, at some point soon, Canada will be free once again, and maybe I can be on my way.
It's amazing. Jeff, let me bring up a couple of questions over here in Rumble. We got God bless Canadian heroes like Jeff Avery from Liberty Patriot Canada. The Remanded sent me some DMs which said, have you sent you images of annual wildfire stats in Nova Scotia? I had no idea arson was so prominent as the number one cause of wildfires there. 1144 since 2007. No, I knew that back from 2023 when they were trying to blame it on the climate crisis. And then they were saying, well, it might be arson, but the climate crisis exacerbates the arson because it's such dry conditions. King of Biltong, looking for some healthy meat, snacks to add to your diet, try Biltong, 50% protein packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and more. Go to biltongusa.com, code VIVA for 10% off. MK Telephone Man, Viva, you need to check out Jasmine Lane on Rumble. She is a Canuck who is sick of this crap also. And I don't know if you can see, Roflo says, about the only thing that Trump's admin is missing is someone like Mr. Garrison from South Park talking about effing the criminals. Okay, that was the earlier show. Let me see over in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community if there's any questions for you, Jeff. Oh, hold on. Someone had a question and I have to get to it. The founders in the U.S. declared our rights inalienable, rights that come from a creator, not from a human. Let me see this. Not from a man. If from man they can be taken away, the founders enshrined these rights in the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. If there's any rule of law that protects the rights of Canadians, is there any that protects us? Cliff Norman asks. I mean, you're there. I've been there for 43 years before I went to Florida. We have a Charter of Rights. What's your impression of the Charter of Rights, Jeff?
I think we're going to have to, I'm not sure if I want to say overhaul, but definitely impose. It'd be great if, we could actually get people in jail for these rights violations, like some of the people in power, for example. So I think that there should be maybe a section written on punishments for such abuses. And the standard should be higher for people in higher positions of power. Overall, I think it's a pretty good charter. The framers of the Constitution in the United States were Renaissance men. I think it's probably the most brilliant piece of political mastercraft that we've seen in the world so far. But like, if we were going to overhaul ours, we could probably look to the United States and start there and say, we can build something better than that. But overall, it's a pretty good charter of rights and freedoms. A lot of people will point to, like, let's get rid of the notwithstanding clause. First of all, that shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. But also there's the section 1 that says that they may intervene, with our rights. And a lot of people are kind of saying like that null and voids the rest of them. I think that what we've seen is an abuse over the last several years. So people might have that strong impression. But we have freedom of movement in Canada, so you can move around the country in your car, but you may not break the speed limit. Like, we put the speed limit in place because the risk to public safety over a certain speed on a certain highway outweighs the absolute freedom of movement, the benefit of that freedom of movement to the individual. So there is a need to kind of rein some activities in that regard. But those limits, those interventions into our liberties, as it says in the Constitution, or as provided by the Oakes Test, they need to be minimally impairing. They need to be logically connected to the goal.
Logically connected, proportionate. And for the Oakes Test is the Supreme Court ruling on when you get to infringe on constitutional rights. It's there's no correlation between the restriction that they're imposing. Like, even ATVs, I can understand they have what are they called? Carburetors? The things that get hot, not a muffler. They have things that combust on them, so I can understand that. But there's just simply no correlation, and there's no proportionate correlation. Like $25,000, a year and a half in jail. It's absolutely capricious and absolute tyranny. There was a question from our locals community, which was from Bart Kopp, who asked Jeff for me. In watching the video, it didn't look like the leaves were stressed on the trees. Not saying it's not dry, but are they overblowing the risk of forest fires? I got a friend up in Nova Scotia. He says, the rivers are low and whatever, but like I say, like, that's the true. Leaves are green. The it's lush. Is it as bad as they say, or are they really just playing it hard?
The leaves are green. The open grassland is not, and that is another one of the ironies in this, is that if my sneakers really represented some kind of a fire hazard, then the first place you would ban me from would be an open grassland, because the grass is all yellow and burnt, but the trees, the leaves on the trees are nice and green, like you said. And I was going to say too, like, you mentioned the Oakes Test and the case that led to that. That was a case where a guy, he got caught with a small amount of marijuana on him, and he was charged with trafficking. I think it was like less than a couple of grams, but they charged him with trafficking, and we ended up with the test because of that, because they said, like, we need to set a threshold here somewhere as to what constitutes simple possession and trafficking. It can't be arbitrary. It can't be left to the judgment of an officer on the scene, this kind of thing. So vastly, the charge that he got was vastly disproportionate to the crime that he committed, which was simple possession. And in my case, like, they've already charged people in Nova Scotia for burning, for actually breaching the burn ban,
which makes total sense. I mean, that obviously makes sense.
You should have a burn ban.
Should have a burn ban. Yeah.
but they're getting the fine. I'm getting the same fine that they are. Then he fires. Like,
That makes no sense. It's like the episode of The Simpsons. That's good.
So,
That's bad.
So it's kind of like I'm being charged with trafficking when I only engaged in simple possession, right? And not even that. I mean, like, I'm just walking in the damn woods, for crying out loud.
It's, the burn ban, no one would say it doesn't make sense. The ATVs, some people might be pissed, but they'll say at least it's causally related. Walking in rubber shoes and fishing makes no sense. To fine people who have violated that with the same fine as the burn ban, it is like charging, it's like sentencing someone to murder when it's simple assault. There was no incentive to not commit the murder then if you're going to do that. Not that you follow the law for the sake of being a good person, but yeah, it's wild. I mean, we'll see. Now you don't need to raise money yet. If you get the fine, if you get found guilty, we'll cross that bridge. It'll be in a couple of years at least, Jeff. So
probably
you got plenty of time to do more damage in the meantime. Before we raid Kimberly Guilfoyle, where can people find you? I've shared your X account. Is there any place in particular you would like to send people?
I mean, X is good. That's where I do most of my fighting these days. I'm on Facebook too, if you like that. I tend to focus on the X stuff more nowadays, but it's just my name on X or on Facebook. It's just Jeff Evely, and I have a Jeff Evely YouTube channel that I haven't touched in forever. So, but yeah, I mean, X, Facebook, that seems to be enough to kind of satisfy everybody.
Jeff, I'm gonna go to my locals community after this, so I will not expect you to come with me. You've been more than generous with your time. I say Godspeed, keep fighting the good fight, but at some point, you need people who are willing not to fight with you, but even to support. And you have a lot of support. I'm just saying, from down here, it looks like there's a lot more approval of the government tyranny and a lot more people saying "govern me harder, daddy" up in Canada. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Canada's going to turn the corner. The Conservatives are growing a bit of a spine now that the election is over, ironically enough. But Jeff, thank you very, very much. I say Godspeed.